Software. See you guys later.
Welcome, everyone, to the November 22nd meeting of the Brentwood Rotary Club. I am your honored president, Sarah Johnson. Oh, dang, didn't expect that one, but appreciate it. I would like to bring Larry Faust up here to lead us in our invocation, and then Warren Bryant is going to lead us in our pledge before we test.
Actually remembers this one. Yes, please. Father God in heaven, the season is upon us. The season of Thanksgiving, and probably this time next week we'll all be rubbing our stomachs and thinking, why in the world did we eat all that yesterday? But in any event, Father, we just thank you for everything that you provide for us each and every day. Just the very air that we breathe, we know that all comes from you. This is a wonderful time of the year. It's the beginning of the Christmas season. We just, it's a special time with families, and we just hope that it can be special for everyone, but we do know there are those who lost loved ones during the year, but we just ask that you touch their hearts in a way that only you can, so that it can be a time of Thanksgiving for them as well. And we thank you for the opportunity of being together as a group, and the opportunities that Rotary has to be a part of the community and to help those around us, and maybe have that giving spirit, just like our Father in heaven has a giving spirit toward us. And He loves us, and we should be loving each other, especially here at this time of the year. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, before we test the things we say, do, and believe, first,
This is the truth.
second,
This is fair all concerned.
third,
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
fourth,
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, Warren and Larry. I'm going to now turn it over to Mr. Keeley Hall, who is going to introduce our guest and visiting Rotarians. Mr. Keeley?
Yes, ma'am. All right, so we do have some visiting, a visiting Rotarian. Let's see, Harvey Baxter. I'm looking for someone who looks like a Floridian. There we go. All right. Mr. Harvey, how are you today? What brings you to our neck of the woods?
Vanderbilt football, but I'm not sure why.
Yes. All right, well, we'll see. You know, they could surprise us. Okay, now, we next have a guest brought today by, this is really freaking me out. I don't like you being that close. Devin, where's Devin?
Behind you.
Okay, of course you are. Wait, where? Devin McClendon is here to introduce a special guest that we know.
I have my wonderful wife of more than 20 years now with me today as we're walking in. Thank her for joining me for her once-a-year Rotary visit, because by joining me today as opposed to the banquet, she's saving me $30.
I learn strategy things from Devin all the time. All right, Miss Lori Reed also has a guest here.
I'm happy to have my friend Will Burns with me today. Will is, as our new friend here, Mr. Baxter, said, he's a recovering attorney. He practiced for a while, but he went to Belmont Law. He is now a financial planner with Merrill Lynch. He's a great guy, Alabama fan. And he works, has two little, cute, adorable girls and a wife named Kate, and we're just happy to have him. The most important thing, his father and his grandfather were Rotarians. So, welcome, Will.
And Sheila Cleveland is going to introduce her guest.
I have my returning guest, Marie Swinford, and she is going to be starting the process of becoming a member.
And then Chief Hughes has some very special guests, but I think he's going to introduce them later on. So that is all for me. Back to you, President Sarah.
Thanks, Keeley. Couple of things that I would love for the club to remember. Today is the last day to get your foundation pledges in for the Rotary International component. so that you can receive matching points through our district. They need the actual check today, so you can go online and pay under payments, BRCCF. You can write a check and give it to Mr. Bart King, or you can call us afterwards and we can help make other arrangements for you. So please remember that as well. I'm going to turn the program over to my good friend Devin McClendon to come up and make an announcement for us, or a special presentation, I should say.
Man, I love this podium. I'll fill in whenever you need. Today, it is my honor and privilege to present a Paul Harris Fellow recognition. As many of you know, the Paul Harris Fellow recognition is the Rotary Foundation's way of expressing its appreciation for those who make a substantial contribution to its efforts and educational programs. The Paul Harris Fellow recognition is named for our founder of Rotary, Paul Harris, and Rotarians like myself often designate people as a Paul Harris Fellow when their life demonstrates a shared purpose with the objectives of Rotary, whether they're a Rotarian or not. Today I have the honor and the pleasure of recognizing my wife Laura McClendon as a Paul Harris Fellow. She was designated to receive this as that special expression. I can tell you that Laura's contributions to our community are substantial, just like Rotarians often are. Laura has served as a constant volunteer in our community. In our schools, she's been ever present since our children entered Scales Elementary School several years ago, serving both as the PTO president and continuing to lead committees at both Brentwood Middle and at Brentwood High School now. She's also served our church community, not only as a Sunday school teacher for children, but also leading our adult Sunday school class as president, and completing leadership Brentwood United Methodist, and now serving on our church council at Brentwood United Methodist. In the community, our community, she is also ever present, being a multi-term member of our Brentwood Library Board, also serving with the Friends of the Brentwood Library. She serves as volunteers beyond our Brentwood community, both with the Hermitage, with the American Heart Association, and even with the Davis House Child Advocacy Center. It gives me great pleasure, Laura, to present you with these emblems of appreciation, making you a Paul Harris Fellow. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Laura, and thank you, Devin. With that, I am going to turn our next few minutes over to Mr. Brian Goss to come and introduce our speaker for today, who we all know and love. Oh, wait, never mind, go away. Bye-bye. I lied.
I'm really happy.
You get to be happy in a minute. Sorry. I was so overwhelmed that I forgot Happy Bucks. Charles Drummond is going to do Happy Bucks for us. Sorry about that, Charles.
I'm glad I'm so memorable.
It's not you, it's me.
You know, I can hear you from here. You didn't have to get on. All right, thank you very much. So I'm going to go first. I already put a few bucks in. I wanted to, first of all, just thank all of you who came to our big party on Saturday. I appreciate it. We had a good contingent from Rotary and a great crowd overall. So thank you for coming. Those of you who didn't come next year. Also, I want to mention real quick, you all have been very supportive of the Homes of Hope organization that builds orphanages for little girls in India. You replaced, there was a picture of it before, a horrible floor in one of the orphanages with this grand marble thing that looked like the entrance to a fancy hotel. I appreciate that. And then this year, $15,000 from our local foundation plus $15,000 from the district is going to build 4 tech centers in 4 different orphanages in Bangalore, India. I really appreciate that. That money has now arrived. I got a million emails from them thanking me. I know you can't possibly see this, but they sent me little profiles of girls that they've helped throughout the years, and it's really phenomenal. These stories of these girls that they literally, got on the street, found them at the bus station. They were dropped off, by a relative who couldn't take care of them anymore. And now they're PhDs and they work in multinational corporations and they're living the dream. And it's because people like us and organizations like this support them. So just thank you very much for being Rotarians. Okay, that's why I'm happy. Let's hear why the chief is happy. Is it because I'm done?
I'm happy to at least temporarily be saved by happy bugs. Brian gets an opportunity to razz me. I'm happy for the opportunity to talk about this project today, which is near and dear to my heart, and I'm happy for the community support that we've received all throughout the process of getting this thing off the ground, literally. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm happy today in honor of my son-in-law, Jeffrey Marcus, who is about 15 or 20 minutes ago is now Commander Jeffrey Marcus, U.S. Naval Reserve.
I feel a little safer already. Of course, all the way. Anyone over here before I make this long trek? I see. Oh, you're pointing, or you? Oh, you're pointing. There we go. Hi, Tish.
Hi, I'm very happy today for several reasons. Number one, I really want to thank this club for embracing me and welcoming me, because when you move to a new city, a new town, whatever, and you know nobody but your children, the first place to obviously go in my mind is Rotary, because you're going to find friends there. So thank you so much to all of you. I'm really happy to be here. The second thing I'm really happy about also has to do with Rotary. I got to read to the kids on Tuesday, and that's something that's really near and dear to my heart. Made me feel great to make a difference in the life of a child. And so I want to thank Rotary for that, because that really made me happy. And the third thing that made me happy was, as much as I read for Rotary back in California, I've never seen that book before. And what a great book, actually teaching the kids the four-way test from this size. So that made me very happy, and I put more than $1 in the basket.
Thank you. Right here.
This is for John Miles. Welcome. Good to see you.
Anyone else happy? We're pointing. We're up.
I'm happy to put in $6 for our first grandbaby, Harper Hudson Dare, who turned 6 months today.
Feel like there was one?
Thank you. Quick shout out to Will Burns, great guy. He and I get to church together, done a Bible study together. Welcome, glad you're here. Also, most of the tables, you have a sign-up sheet for the Little Harper cleanup. I only get to hit you up twice between now and we come back after January. If you know you can come and be a part of that, please let me know. I also somehow figured out how to set up a sign-up sheet on our website, so I probably wrote numerous Rotary International violations doing that, but you can go to events, click on Little Harper on the 25th of January, and sign up there as well. Thank you in advance for your help.
Thank you, sir. Who's next? We're not really that happy. It's kind of gray, Mrs. President. Oh, there we go.
I'm happy to be welcomed by Brentwood Rotary again. I appreciate it. The second one is for the Franklin High School Quakers, who won the state soccer championship in Oregon with my grandson on the team.
I was going to say, I didn't know that they were the Quakers now.
I'm happy because there's going to be a battle in the woods tonight. The Ravenwood Raptors are taking down the Brentwood Bruins.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Thank you, Charles.
I saw a bigger one in there, Kip. Did you grab the right one? Are we all? Look, I guilted him out of another one. Yeah.
Thank you, Charles.
We're done. Thank you, Ms. President.
All right. Now, without any further ado, it is my honor to bring up Brian Goss once again to introduce our wonderful speaker, Jeff Hughes.
Well, sadly, I was only given about 10 minutes
warning, preparation time. So I wasn't lying to you when I said I wasn't introducing you. I didn't know. But what can I? What? Yeah, I was gonna say, what can I say that hasn't been said anyway? This is the second meeting I've been at with Jeff this morning. We had a meeting in Franklin this morning, and I followed his vehicle all the way there, and I was going to give him a hard time. He never used his turn signal. Then we got there, and I realized it was Jay Evans I was following. So that didn't work out. But anyway, I've been asked a couple times already in this meeting if I was jealous of this new facility. I said no. I feel kind of like the parent whose kid is going off to college, and you've already got man cave plans for his room. That's where we're at. We're as anxious. I mean, we got U-Haul on speed dial. We're as anxious for them to move on as they are. It's going to be a lot more space for us. But seriously, I do not know how he's going to pull this off with their bare bones budget, but I think we're going to find that out today. So I hope everybody has had plenty of sweet tea. Stay awake for the next 45 minutes or so. Jeff?
So ironically, this is the one project that Brian and I can actually agree on. The only one. I want to introduce the gentleman with me today. First off, a man that is not unfamiliar to any of you, Kirk Bednar, our city manager, is here. And Kirk is going to answer all the hard questions that I don't have the expertise or knowledge in. And then I'm very happy to have our architect, James Kennan, who is with the Architect Workshop here today. And I want to recognize our mayor, Ray Little, who has been instrumental in moving this project along and has supported it wholeheartedly. And I wanted to recognize Betsy Crosley, but she's not here today, but she sends her regards. And hate that she's not here because she was instrumental at the onset of this as well. It's hard to believe, it's probably been closer to 3 years ago that I spoke to y'all last. And we talked about the need for a new facility, and we talked about the justifications and what that might look like. And ironically, as I stand here today, nearly 3 years later, we have broken ground and we are about to start the foundation of the building. And even though it's probably a mud puddle down there today, if you leave and take a right out of the parking lot and drive down toward the Heritage, you can take a look at the progress that's been made thus far. Very, very, very exciting stuff for me. If you'll recall, and I'll just touch briefly on this because I've got a lot of slides I want to go over and I want to give you plenty of time to answer questions. The three driving factors behind this project were location, space needs, and security. And fortunately for me and fortunately for the citizens of Brentwood, who are going to be ultimately the ones that benefit from this facility, the commissioners and staff also agreed and really haven't received little, if any, resistance from the planning and moving forward on this project. So very, very thankful for that. Okay, so James is going to advance the slides for me, and I'm going to kind of let him jump in at the appropriate times. And I've been told I got a little screen down here I want, so I don't have to look back there. So for the last 2 years, gang, we've been planning, drawing, redrawing, discussing this, that, every little detail, every little minute detail that you can possibly think of. We're down into the weeds now so far that I'm not sure I'm going to find my way out. But when we first started out, we talked about critical success factors for the project and what that looked like. And this is something that we work collaboratively with our chosen architectural group and city staff. And we meet regularly. We're down to the point now where we're meeting every other Tuesday. We've spent a lot of time together, and that's not a bad thing. We actually enjoy each other's company for the most part, I think. Yes. And we argue a little bit, and we go back and forth, and ultimately we agree on the direction that we need to go. So if you recall, we talked about where we were in the existing building and why we needed to look at going to another facility. And what you're seeing on the screen here is where we're located at in the current City Hall. And the thing that you'll note is that we're spread out all over the place, from one end of the building to the other, upstairs, downstairs, and it really, really hinders our ability to offer efficient and effective services from an operational standpoint. Go back to that last slide just 1 second there. Notice on the right, you'll see that we occupy, and this is including common space that we currently share, a total of about just under, well, it might be just over 20,000 square feet. And it says there at the bottom, grossing 26,000 square feet, but I think that's encompassing some of the walls and the construction of the building, all right? And then we went through a very, very extensive space needs assessment summary. Very lengthy process, involved interviews with every person in the police department, every operational component, and the staff with the architect workshop came up with what they felt like that we needed to effectively run our department. And that total square footage looks more like 53,800 square feet. And so the building that we're currently constructing is somewhere close to 55,000 square feet, right, James? And you'll see there the police staff, the public and support staff, and then the building support, which you have to encompass the dimensions of the walls and those sorts of things. All right? So we actually took a tour, and it was in January, I believe, of 2018, up north. Went to Illinois and actually crossed the line over into Iowa. Was it Iowa, or where did we?
Yeah.
Iowa. Okay.
Rock Island, yeah.
Well, there you go. There you go. So we visited 4 departments that our team had been involved in building. And these were comparable buildings in size, and not only in the structure size, but in the department size. So wanted to get some ideas of what direction we wanted to go and how we wanted to go about developing our building. And so these were the 4 departments that we visited. Myself, Tommy Walsh, who's my assistant chief, Kirk Bednar, and the architectural team, including some furniture personnel went with us as well. And we looked at some furniture showrooms while we were up in Chicago. All right? So, no surprise to anybody, I think everyone here is familiar with the site that we're talking about. It's right down the road here on Heritage Way. Before you get to the Heritage, it sits immediately between the rec center and the Heritage. This is property that was acquired by the city around 1991, Kirk? No, about 2000. Okay. This was when the Heritage was built, and it was a process of acquiring that land through some infrastructure that needed to get from point A to point B. And what's the total square acreage of that, or close? Is it 7 to 7.5 acres is what we're talking about. All right, and you'll see that it faces the interstate there, and to the back of it, you've got the subdivision. Is it Hallbrook? I think it's Hallbrook is behind us there, and then to the north is the Heritage, and the south is Ray Center. All right. All right. So we have the land. Okay, we've had the land for a while. So now we know we need about 55,000 square feet. But we've got to build the space that we need on the land that we have available. And if you'll notice there was a 26-foot drop from the back of the property to the front of the property. So that's a pretty tremendous slope. So we had to start looking at the constraints between the north boundary and the south boundary, and take into consideration that slope, that 26-foot slope from the back to the front there, and what that structure might look like sitting on that land. And we talked about the desire to maybe have a 1-story building where we didn't have an elevator or stairs, if you will. And it just didn't work out with that drop. And so we knew pretty quickly that we were going to have a two-story building. But as it turns out, we're able to situate this building, whereas the first level is at ground entrance and the rear level is at ground entrance. So there's the way it elevates, the building kind of sits on top of each other, where it looks like 2 stories from the front, but it looks like 1 story from the back. Okay? And if you lay this out in a graphic, then you see what it starts to look like with the front parking lot, the rear parking lot, the building sitting in the middle of it. And it had to be a long building from the north to the south and more narrow from the front to the back. And the other smaller building behind the rear parking lot is an annex building that will house the Williamson County Ambulance. When we first approached the county, they were very excited about the opportunity to have a station where they could house an ambulance close to the interstate. So one of the things that was a big driving factor for us is easy access to major thoroughfares: Concord Road east and west, Franklin Road north and south, Wilson Pike north and south, and more importantly the interstate north and south. Likewise, the county, the closest ambulance they have is, do they have one at Station 2, Brian? So the closest one's on Sunset Road.
Sunset Road and City Hall.
And City Hall. So it makes them, or gives them the ability to be much closer to respond to the interstate, which gets them from point A to point B much quicker. So they jumped at the opportunity to go in as partners on this project, and they will fund the portion of the annex building that they occupy to house an ambulance, which will be very convenient for the heritage folks as well, as you can imagine. All right. So one of the first things that the architectural team did when they met with all of our people and they looked at the space needs they had, they looked at what they actually needed opposed to what they had, and they started designing spaces, just blocks of spaces. And then we had to take those spaces, those operational spaces, and decide where they were going to go within the building, given the footprint that we had to work within. So it was kind of like a puzzle, if you will. And that puzzle's been taken apart and put back together many times, right, James? But we want to get it right. So we think that we've got it as close to right as we possibly can. All right. So this is the layout as it looks today. This is the building as it will sit on the property, and then if you'll see the annex building, it is now turned to where the front of the building will face the rec center. And we had to move the whole structure and the parking space a little more to the south for reasons that involve grading, because grading can get very expensive, and we had a lot of fall to the north. And so this allowed us to save some money by moving the whole project a little bit further to the south. All right. This is the floor plan for the first floor. And I know this is hard to see from where you're sitting, and please take the time to come up and you can see the visual depiction of the front of the building here, and then you've got a diagram on the floor, which is hard to see from where you're at now, and in another angle of the front of the building. But without going into a lot of detail, this is the front entrance, the public entrance of the building. So if you come into this lobby right here, immediately to your left you have a community room that will seat about 100 people, all right? And if you go to the right, you immediately are at records, all right? Behind, and I might mention that this community room will double as a courtroom for traffic court. This is report writing rooms where you'll come in and actually be able to sit and meet with an officer in a private room and file a report, look at video, those sorts of things. This here is evidence, and I'll note that this back wall of this building is up against dirt because this is a 2-tiered building, right? So it really worked out well for security purposes that the firing range, which is right here, it's a 6-lane firing range, is up against a dirt wall, and then the evidence vault is up against a dirt wall. This is training room. This is a training class. All of this is training. This is a firearm simulation room, the big video game where we have the shoot, don't shoot scenarios that many of y'all have participated in. This is a defensive tactics room. And this is a ready room and an armory as you enter the firing range. Now, it was very important for me. This is one thing that I didn't want to give up. I didn't want to budge on the firing range, because currently we have to share a range with many entities, including the Sheriff's Department, who owns the range down in Franklin. It's an outdoor range, and every January we have to get on the schedule and get specific dates that our folks can go down and do this mandated training that we're required to do, and we're at the mercy of their schedule. And so it's always a problem. In this building here, we'll be able to shoot and train 24/7, literally, 365 days a year. And more importantly than just punching holes in paper, with this simulation room, we'll be able to leave our firearm simulator set up and utilize it 24/7, 365 days a year. So that's a huge benefit, huge benefit. All right. So the second floor, which is not accessible to the public unless you're a guest and have been escorted up through the building, the police staff will enter from right here from the rear parking lot, and this parking lot is secured. So all the police fleet, all the private vehicles will be secured. Whereas now, if you come to the Municipal Center in Maryland Farms, all of the police vehicles are unsecured. They're just in an open parking lot and accessible to anybody that walks up to them. Police staff will enter here. If they go to the right, they have a break room, they have a locker room, and they have a fitness room. This area here is dispatch. All the communications will, if not at the time the police move in, they will move in shortly thereafter. Depending on, we have to align the replacement of the equipment that we currently have with the time that it's due to be replaced and moving them into this new building, because we don't want to be down any longer than we have to be. This is the common area. This is criminal investigations. This is all patrol. This is the squad room, or what we call roll call. And then you've got the Sally Port over here. This will be the booking area. And these are interview rooms and so forth up in this area. So all of those pieces and parts that I showed you, we took all of those and we moved them around, we finagled them and decided who needed to be adjacent to who for operational purposes to make us more efficient and more effective. And this was the best layout that we could come up with. One thing that we focused on, or tried to make happen, was all of the individual offices are small. There's nothing elaborate about any of the offices. We wanted to make the larger areas the common areas, the places that we would convene together and work together, not the rooms where we would actually be with a computer or what have you. So that was a focus of ours. All right, next. This is an aerial shot of the site probably just a few weeks ago when Brian's folks took this, and if you'll see, they're down here protecting our little construction site. You know, they're trying to invade it. I don't try and take over. I don't know what they're doing. But they have a drone, so they flew a drone and they took this aerial shot. And if you'll look, this is Heritage Way. Okay, this is the cul-de-sac where you enter the Heritage. Here's the rec center up here, and the public entrance into the facility will be right here off of this cul-de-sac. The staff entrance, including the ambulance, will enter through this staff entrance. So they'll come up here and then they'll go through a secured gate and enter this rear parking lot area. The annex building will set back in this area, and they will not have to go through a gate. So there will be no delay in the ambulance having to get in and out of the gate. They'll just simply come through the staff entrance there. All right, you can hit that and it's going to throw in some arrows. So you can see the first level of the building is right here. And if you'll recall, I told you that evidence was back up against this wall. The firing range is back up against this wall. Records would be in this area. The community room is going to be over in here. Second level will overlay the first level, but it'll be a ground entry for people coming in from the staff parking lot. And you can go ahead and hit that. The annex building, which I told you was up here.
The public parking will be here in the front, and the staff parking will be back here in the rear. Now, James has done some really cool stuff, and he started to lay the floor plan over the aerial site. So here's the aerial site that I just showed you, and that's depicting the first floor, the parking lot, the annex building. That's the second floor over this aerial photo. And then there's what it will look like when it's complete as it's sitting on top of that photograph. That's pretty cool stuff, isn't it? That makes me giddy. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm getting the warm fuzzies just standing up here seeing that. So that gives you some idea what that building's going to look like. When we started talking about materials and what we wanted the building to look like, we wanted it to resemble the look of Tractor Supply up in Maryland Farms, because we really like the way the stone and the brick combination makes that, and glass. Stone, brick, glass was our idea. And so that's kind of the look that we're going to go with on the exterior of the building. And this is a picture of what you see up here, the larger version of what it will look like from the front, from Heritage Way. And you'll actually be able to see this from 65. So as you drive north or south on 65, you can look over and actually see the police department. This is a closer view of the public entrance, which will be right here. Records would be right here. The community room would be over here. This is looking from the southwest corner of the building. This is the public entrance down here. So it's just being on this closer to the rec center, what that view would look like. Lots of glass so we can get natural light in there. This is the public entrance. This is communications, which is on the second floor. These are the CID offices here. The community room is here, and you'll have an exit and a patio out here for the community area. This is from the rear parking lot where the staff would enter. This is the main entrance of the staff. This is a secured lot that I was telling you about, so you're kind of standing looking at it from the southeast. This is straight on, looking due west from the rear entry. And this is the main entry here. This is the patrol offices. This is the break room. This is the fitness area. And so I was talking about being down in the weeds, and now we're starting to talk about furniture and finishes and all of that stuff that I have no idea. I mean, Kirk and I are picking out the paint colors, and I don't know how that's going to turn out, okay? But, yeah, but James, why don't you address that a little bit?
So, to keep him out of the weeds as much as we can, we've used a lot of 3D software and really walk him through the building in 3D as much as planned, because that helps everybody understand it. And Chief has enjoyed that so much, I'm supposed to try to capture that sense without pulling up all the software in front of you and have it crash in front of a couple hundred people here. So this is like a series of slides to kind of give you a flavor of what the design sessions have been like moving through. So this is the commons he was talking about, where the staff will be. It's skylit and actually looks out toward Brentwood, because that was important to us that officers every day as they showed up look back out to the city that they're working to protect. This will be the main public entrance. It's sheltered as you come into the lobby. In the lobby, we intend for some kind of graphic about the history of Brentwood on the main lobby wall. As you turn, there'll be the records that Chief mentioned earlier. This is another view. I've taken screenshots from different software we use here of the lobby looking back out. Records again. Starting to walk into the community room he mentioned. The judge's bench will be on one end. There's another view of the judge's bench. And turning around the other way will be a presentation wall for meetings like this and other community activities. Planning commission, I think, or planning reviews, I think Kirk has mentioned. And then Chief mentioned there was a private space directly off the lobby to come give reports. This will be that kind of space right there. You see two private rooms, place for property return, a little conference room, place to come get fingerprinted if you need for your job to be fingerprinted. Then downstairs, that was all the evidence and all the training facilities for them. And so there's a little break area lobby space down there as they take breaks from the classes that they do. And that's some different views of it. And there's one communicating stair in the middle of the building that connects the two floors. It's important that they run into each other day in and day out. Staff training break area, again. The firing range you mentioned. The size of it gives them a lot of flexibility about how they train. It's not just a stand and shoot firing range. It's actually, they can move up and down the course. And coming back up that communicating stair, looking back through the staff comments back out the door where they came in. Some more sketches of that area, the squad room. So the squad room really is the hub of the whole building, so it is in the center of the whole building. More of the staff commentary. Looking back out toward Brentwood again, and the communicating stair going back down. Same area. So as they come in at the commons, turn to their right would be the locker rooms. Turn to their left is the patrol offices and where they'll do records, and the squad room. And then there's the staff break area. Just a different view of it. And then dispatch has its own break area because they work 24/7 and they need not leave. This is a view of dispatch. It's on the north side of the building, so they have north light. They're looking out toward the hills. They will respite from the hard work they do inside. It's another more 3D view of dispatch. Then coming out of dispatch will be the administrative corridor. And you can see there's a lot of glass for the communication, so they see each other during their day. This is Chief Hughes' view from his desk. Well, that was funnier. All right, staff comments back again. The squad room itself, where they'll have audiovisual displays to prepare themselves for going out in the field each day. The detectives have their own common teaming area space. It's another view of that. Then the sergeants of patrol have their own open workspace, again for open communication and collaboration. That's their entrance, and it's time for questions.
How much is this going to cost? All right, let's get that out of the way. Well, let's address that first, and then we'll move on to the other questions. And the answer to the cost question is we don't know. We don't know. We know where we're at. We know where we're at, but we're waiting on the final dollar amount. I'm going to let Kirk address that because y'all can throw rocks at him.
Just real quick, we've obviously started work, so we've bid out certain phases of the project. The last bids will be due back in about a month. We think we're comfortable. We're in a range of somewhere in the $28 to $30 million range. A portion of that, as Chief mentioned, will be paid by the county, about $1.2 million for the annex building. Hopefully, we can come in a little more than that. We just issued bonds a month or two ago for $15 million for the project. So we'll borrow somewhere around half, maybe a little more than half, and the rest of it we've been putting money away the last few years or saving it up as we've had surpluses to kind of cash flow the other half of it. But absent some catastrophe relative to the final, and all the bids we've had so far, the first two phases have come in a little under our estimates. We're hoping the final ones will do the same and we'll be in that $28 million range.
All right, Tim, what do you got?
What is our current number of staff members? What is the capacity of this building, and can it be expanded?
Okay, I can tell you that currently we're at 84 personnel. That's authorized positions. We're not at full staff. We're 3 short right now. That's 17 civilians and 67 police officers. And yes, we have allowed for growth of the staff and growth within the building for that staff projected out 30 years, James? I think we projected it out 30 years, and I don't have those numbers with me, but we projected it out by year and to what we thought we would be at 30 years from now and what space we would need 30 years from now. So all of the space that we went over up here will not be occupied initially. Thus, some of it won't be built out, but it'll be there for future growth. Good question. Tom?
I know we talked about this before, but it's one way in, one way out here. I did see you have a notice for emergency access. Can that handle all your heavy vehicles to get out of here? Pretty easy to bottle you up.
Yes, and that was something that we did take into consideration. If we were to not be able to exit through Heritage Way, there is an emergency exit currently through Hallbrook. There's already bollards there, and there's already, there's a pathway, it's not a road per se, but we feel like that we'll be able to get everything out in the event that we need to go out another route. Good question, though.
So this road that we're on right now, this is your road.
Correct.
My wife works at the Heritage.
Okay.
So I'm just curious, what will the traffic situation feel like with this new institution?
We don't feel like it'll be terribly different than it is now because we're out and about in the city. We're not coming and going frequently. When our folks are out on patrol, they're generally out there for 8 hours. So this is home base, but the majority of the staff of this building will be spread throughout the city throughout the day. So we don't anticipate that to be a huge issue.
Are you having to do anything differently with lights or whatever?
No changes to Heritage Way's not going to need to be wider. There'll be no need to change anything as it relates to the road itself. Jared?
Will there be any emergency access to 65?
No, there's currently not any plans to have another on-ramp to 65, but this is so much more than what we have the capability now. If we had something that happened between Concord Road and O'Hickory Boulevard on the north side of 65 now, and we're coming from Maryland Farms, we would literally have to go down to Concord Road, turn around and come back up, absent going the wrong way on 65. So this is so much better if we're coming from the center of the city. So this will give us a much better average response time to anywhere in the city, because this is really just about the geographical center of the city of Brentwood.
What do you think that average, what is it now?
The average response time, we're somewhere around 6 minutes on average. Okay, so sometimes it's a lot better, sometimes it's a little less, but on average it's 6 minutes. We want to maintain that. As traffic has continually gotten worse here in Brentwood, we've saw that number inch up. We used to stay under 5 minutes. Well, we're already up to 6, so that's continually gotten worse. We want to maintain what we have and not see that continue to increase. Skip.
I saw, or heard during the discussion that there was another meeting room that usually be used for planning commission and or city commission, as well as the judges bench up there. Is that going to be moving from City Hall?
That'll be a dual purpose room, so traffic court will now be held in this new building. As to what we use it for from a public standpoint, I think that's still up for debate. Kirk, you want to address that?
Yeah, I don't think the formal meetings of City Commission and Planning Commission won't move from City Hall. They'll stay where they're at. But this gives us another room for work sessions and those kind of things.
Every Friday we could be up there with you, bro.
Say it again?
Every Friday we could be up there with you.
The Rotary, yeah, and we had a little conversation about that in the back, and at some point that may be used for a meeting spot, if not permanently, maybe as a backup, because we won't have a full kitchen like you do here. Chuck?
What's a Sally Port?
A Sally Port is where we bring our arrestees. So we do not have a holding facility, all right? This is not a jail. We will not have prisoners in this building. But we have to process them, which means we have to fingerprint them and photograph them and interview them. So we will bring them into this Sally Port, which is really a garage, okay? You go in, the door shuts behind you, and you are secure to where this person can't run away from you. Then you take them into the processing area and fingerprint and photograph them, interview them, put them back in the car, and take them to the Williamson County Jail.
And will the break room have donuts?
The break room, I would expect, Chuck, I would expect that from Brian, but not you. I hope you didn't drive here today. All right, I got time for 2 more questions, and the mayor gets priority back here because he is the mayor.
And I have a question. I just want to say our police force truly does serve and protect all of our first responders. It's great. In fact, y'all hear on Josh that I watched them over the years. It kind of reminded me when I was young. I could hit my brother, but you better not hit my brother. They're really together. So, but this is such a big undertaking. I'm thinking 5 or 6 years we've been working on it. But Kirk, Jeff, Tommy, Jay, James, and all the other many people that work on it work really hard to come up with details to make this right. But they're taking very good care of your tax dollars. So this is your money, but it's government, other people, 5 people, 4 people. And I want you to know the staff, we look at the big picture, we've done work on it, but not anything like they have. So they're to be very much commended, having gone through this process over the last few years. It's a big undertaking. I can tell you, when I signed that bond thing for $15 million, that was kind of sobering that day. But we do take it very, very seriously, watching the tax dollars, and they have everything they've done. So I just wanted to say this to someone who's been involved in the process. They're the ones that need to happen for this.
Let me leave y'all with a couple of thoughts, and I know we're out of time. This is not my building, okay? I'll be lucky to be in this building probably a year before I retire. This is a building for the citizens of Brentwood, all right? This is so we can bring you a better level of service than what we currently bring you. From at least it'll be more effective and hopefully more efficient from a response standpoint. So I didn't get the question of when we're going to occupy it, and our hope is that we get to move in around the spring of 2021. Ironically, that will be the 50th anniversary of the Brentwood Police Department. If y'all are aware, we are currently celebrating the 50th anniversary of the city of Brentwood, which was incorporated in 1969. The police department did not come into existence until 1971. So it'll be really nice to cut the ribbon and enter this building on our 50th anniversary. And lastly, I just want to recognize a citizen of Brentwood, who many of you in this room probably know, Mr. Billy Aiken, graciously donated $50,000 toward the completion of this facility to use as we see fit. And then he left us another $50,000 in his will for when he passes, for a total of $100,000. So I want to challenge each and every one of y'all in this room to do the same. So Curry, that means you. But we're very appreciative of the citizens because, like I said, we've had tremendous community support, and that's just one example of that. We're out of time, y'all. Thank you very much, and hope you're as excited as I am.
Amazing. Thank you so much to Jeff, Kurt, James, and everybody for all the hard work on our soon-to-be new police station. They will be around after Rotary for any additional questions that if we weren't able to get to you. I want to remind everyone to please help put up the tables and throw away tablecloths and all that good stuff. And Jeff, if you'd come back up, because, you know, we're Catholic here. We'd ask you to sign a book to read to our students in the Williamson County Schools, and the pen is a token of our appreciation. Thank you so much. And with that, everyone, there is a Rotary board meeting quick right after Rotary, so if everybody that's on the board can stick around.
Next meeting in 2 weeks.
Next meeting is in 2 weeks, don't forget.
From yesterday. 2 weeks from yesterday.
Correct. The banquet is in 2 weeks from yesterday. Our next Rotary meeting will be December 13th. So thank you, everybody, and with that,